So Artemis Fowl's come out, and as most of us predicted, it's a massive failure. This is like one of Disney's worst movies ever made. I actually can't think of a worse Disney movie than this. And it's such a shame for me that the subject matter had to be one of my favorite book series. This is a movie that was in production for 18 years. I remember reading that this movie was in development back when I was in 3rd grade. So this has been a long wait for me. And now it feels like it was all for nothing because Disney made this such a mess. If you actually read the book and then watched the movie, you wouldn't know there's a similarity between them. It's that different. But as much as I want to rant on Artemis Fowl, that's not the main point here. The movie is only the latest in a long line of Disney live-action failures. And I'm certainly not talking about their remakes. I'm talking about their original live-action films. John Carter, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, The Lone Ranger, Tomorrowland, the BFG, Wrinkle in Time, the ones that aren't based on an animated film. Now, I made a video a while ago explaining how Disney only makes remakes today because of these failures with their original movies. They've come to rely on these remakes, as well as the MCU and Pixar movies and Star Wars, and regular Disney animation. But why does it have to be this way? Or how did Disney get to this point? The most obvious answer is they just don't care. They are already making money off their various other divisions. So these movies are pretty much tests, especially in the age of Disney Plus, where the goal is to just create more content. But that still doesn't explain how Disney can have such a bad track record in the past 10 years. My theory for all this is simply that Disney interferes too much on a corporate level. You'll notice most of those big budget failures were, big budget. Disney obviously put some priority on them. But thanks to the whole need to keep the Disney brand in check, they clearly meddle and make changes in the movies that don't go over well. They did this with John Carter, for example. And they did it here with Artemis Fowl. They made Disney-friendly changes to what was once edgy or slightly mature source material. And once upon a time, Disney could handle that kind of diversity because they used labels like Buena Vista or Miramax or Touchstone to cover up their productions. Release them under a different name. That's how we got movies like National Treasure, movies like Narnia, movies like Pirates of the Caribbean. These were all hugely entertaining flicks that we associate now with Disney, of course, but they don't feel like strictly Disney movies. You can see why those labels like Touchstone were so important. But when Disney stopped using those labels, everything they released under the Disney name had to fit the Disney brand, which is how we got into our current Artemis Fowl predicament. They're not going to release a movie where this 12-year-old kid is a full-blown villain of his own story, and then stick the Disney name on it. I find this culture of meddling weird because Disney subsidiaries don't have this problem. Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, even Disney Animation are usually allowed to do their thing. But when you have a big budget live action original, they involve themselves too much. That said, it should be noted that the more low budget live action movies that they have done recently are a lot better than something like Artemis Fowl. A movie like Togo, for example, which is a Disney Plus original, was actually pretty well made. It wasn't Oscar material by any means, but it was still perfectly decent. Same goes for something like Stargirl or Timmy Failure. And one of my favorite movies, Saving Mr. Banks, which was the Walt Disney Mary Poppins biopic from 2013. Another fairly low-budgeted movie that did quite well critically. And speaking of budgets, Artemis Fowl was made for something like $175 million. Now, with Disney Plus being a thing, and the current pandemic we have going on, it's safe to say Disney's not going to be putting money like that into a non-proven franchise or IP. which means it's the perfect time to start making more of these lower budget originals. More Togo and Stargirl, and less Artemis Fowl and Nutcracker. And honestly, if Disney doesn't want to make use of its old labels, like Touchstone and Buena Vista, then this honestly seems like the best path to take. Higher quality, low budget originals, rather than big budget failures. This is the studio that brought us Pirates of the Caribbean and National Treasure, and the epic Cursed Narnia movie, all in the span of like a year. This is the studio that once made Mary Poppins and 20,000 Leagues. It's capable of a lot. They just need to find their way again. And that's all I have to say about that. I think Disney should stick to lower budgeted, higher quality films, and not try to make a blockbuster live action franchise. They've shown, at least currently, that they can't do that. But what do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, validate me if I'm right, and criticize me if I'm wrong. That's all I have for now. See you later.